whether it's almost not where I like to be, just right here. 10 degrees. And what it is now and what it is. So today we are on our last class before our big routine in a couple weeks. So I just wanted to take this class to go over the last 3 methods that we've covered so far. And I'm not really going into too much detail, but just a quick overview. And then any questions about what we've covered so far. So, last few months that we've been here, we covered basics of breath meditation, meditation of breath, chanting, mindful breathing. We covered chanting meditation. We chanted Buddhist Meditation. Fun. And then the last option is visualization. So the breath meditation, we covered 3 different methods, 7 methods of breathing meditation. We did counting, following the breath.
Seems to be picking up the microphone, but everything's plugged in.
It's solid. Want to check it again? Do you want to check it again now that you took it out, took it back in, put it back in? Why does like disconnecting things and reconnecting them all work? Like when you disconnect something and reconnect it, it just like magically works again. Like what? I don't get that. We're in a simulation. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Okay, where was I? Okay, good. See, disconnecting, connecting it. What is up with that? This reality isn't real. Okay. Back to breath meditation. So we've covered counting and following the breath through the body. I think that's the only 2 we covered. We may have, I don't believe we've covered my +1 method. Right? I don't think we did. I'm not going to cover that because first, I still till this day can't truly correctly explain the method. Even though I wrote it in my meditation book, I don't know if it's actually clear enough to understand by people other than myself. But anyway, so we'll refresh our counting and the body movement, breath movement through the body. So the counting is the most traditional method of meditation, right? And there are several ways we can do counting, but the, again, traditional way is to count every in and out breath as 1, in out 2, in out 3, all the way up to 10, and then we restart back from 1. And we typically want to stick to typically don't want to increase the number. You don't want to go beyond 10 and continue on, right? The reason we do that, the reason why we stop at 10, or maybe you can go to a higher number if you want, but the reason there's a stopping point and we reset is because if you continue on, the mind has the ability to work the counting, but also work distractions at the same time. And because the flow of counting is 1, 2, 3, 4, like you know your numbers, right? And so it's a very habitual, very automatic, very routine count, right? There's no real concentration because you're just counting. And then because you're just counting and not really paying that much attention to it, there's a lot of room for distractions to arise and a lot of room for you to play with those distractions. And so the reason why we want to stop at 10 is because that way it gives us a stopping point. Say, okay, I reached my final concentration point. Let's reset and go back, right? So it allows the mind to do more than just count, right? Another thing you can do is count backwards from 10 once you reach 10, right? So 1 to 10, then 10 to 1. The counting backward isn't really mentioned in a lot of places. It's definitely not mentioned in any of the discourses. But I do recommend it to add a little extra biting challenge, I suppose, to the method. And then at any point during the count, you've lost your count, you've gone distracted, or whatnot, you simply just stop and go back to 1. And now this is in the way. Okay. I want to see everyone's beautiful faces. Even though the counting is a very effective method, and it really, really is, especially for those beginning or kind of like in the midst of their beginning journey, right? So if you've just started meditating for the past couple of years or just started meditating, counting will be your number 1 tool, truly. However, it will stop working eventually. Because just like anything else we do in life that's routine, just like things you do at work automatically, you know what to do, you no longer need instructions, you no longer need assistance, right? You're just doing it because you know it. It's habitual to you, right? The same way you can probably walk around your house or apartment with your eyes closed, it's because you know really where everything is. There's no reason to really pay attention to where the chair or the table is, because you, for the most part, can't, you've memorized how the floor layout, that's the word I was looking for, the layout of the land or house, right? And so counting falls in that kind of same bucket. It will start to be so routine, so automatic, so habitual that it'll just be another thought. It's not even a method anymore. Now it became a thought. And we don't want that. And so with any method that you try, and again, there's hundreds of methods out there, right? These are just the 3 most effective that I believe in, that I've chosen, but there's hundreds of methods, if not thousands. But each one does have an expiration date of its effectiveness, right? All these methods aren't the means to get you into like a meditation mindset, right? We talked about the jhana factors. The achievement of the jhana factors puts us in a state of mind called access concentration, right? This is the true realm of true meditation. And all the methods that we use or we practice is really just trying to get us to that place of access concentration. They are just tools. The same way you use a tool to assemble anything, to fix something, right? You use the tool, you do what you need to do with it, and you put it back in its place, right? You don't hang on to it for the rest of your life. Likewise, all the methods and techniques you use in meditation are simply just tools. You use them when you need them, and then when you're done with them, you put them away. And then later on, if you need to refresh or to something, you grab the tool and you use it again. But still, counting is still very effective. I still use counting every once in a while, depending on the type of session I plan to do. Counting, for me at least, is the best grounding technique that I can use before I go into the deep stuff, right? The other type of counting you do, which I used to do. I don't do it now because now it just became too distracting. But math, multiplying, right? Multiplication, or finding, or going through the series of natural numbers, or whatever it may be, right? Just math. But the problem with that, or a potential problem for that, is it may get to a point where you like just think of multiplications of 2, right? I think it's like the easiest multiplication you do. Anything times 2, pretty easy. So probably up to like 100 we can easily do, but anything beyond that, you may have to kind of maybe think about it, right? And so the thinking is what causes, or what breaks that method. Now it's not really a method, now it's a process. And we don't want to do that. So just like resetting back to 1, or reversing back to 1, you can backward your multiplication. Yeah, just multiplying, or any other math series you want to use. The second method of counting, which or mindfulness of the breath, is to be mindful and aware of your breathing in certain areas of the body. And so with any method that's using the breath specifically, we always want to start, or probably keep, your concentration on this anapana spot. So the spot right at your upper lip and between your nose is called the anapana spot. Right? Anapana literally means in and out. So when we practice anapanasati, anapana means in and out. Sati means meditation or mindfulness. So it's the mindfulness of in and out breathing. And so you concentrate on the spot for the second method, and we are simply observing the breath as we breathe in and breathe out. And so focusing our attention at the anapana spot, we want to feel the air, feel the breathing. How does it feel? Is the air cold? Is it warm? Is your breathing shallow? Is it deep? Is it heavy? Is it coarse? Is it smooth? Is it long? Is it short? Right? You want to make these mental observations of how the breath feels at the anapana spot. And so you want to do that for 3 to 5 breaths, right? In and out breaths. And then you shift your attention to the kind of back of your throat almost, right? And again, you just want to feel the air as you're breathing in and out. Feel the air in that spot. Again, with the same labeling. Is it warm? Is it cold? Are you breathing heavy? Is it short? Is it coarse? Is it smooth? Right? Whatever one word that describes that feeling or sensation, use that as your label. And then you shift your attention to the throat, right? So you're going to feel the air as you inhale and exhale. Again, making those labels: long, short, warm, cold, heavy, coarse, smooth, whatever. And you do that again for 3 to 5 breaths. And then you shift your attention to your lungs. You're going to feel your chest and your lungs expand and contract. Right? You're going to feel the air into your body, exit your body. Of course, we really can't tell at this point because it's beyond the once the air gets to midway, we can't really feel the air in our chest, in our lungs. We can't feel if it's cold or if it's warm or if it's coarse or not, right? So we're just really paying attention to the movement of our chest as we inhale and exhale. And again, you do that for 3 to 5 breaths. And then after that, you shift your attention to your whole body, right? Because your whole body is just, there's air everywhere, right? There's oxygen in our blood. And so just feel your whole body just being energized by the breathing. And again, you do that for 3 to 5 breaths. And then you reverse. Go back to your lungs, to the throat, to the back of your mouth, to the anapana spots on the nose. And you reverse back, up and down, right? This method is what I use when I sit for long sessions. And this method is probably, other than my +1 method, is one of the most effective methods. Because think about what we're doing. Think about what is the difference, this is a question, what is the difference between just counting, right, 1 to 10 and then reversing back, or however you want to count, and the method of following the breath throughout different bodies? What is the difference between these two methods? And what is happening? What are you doing differently from when you're counting versus when you're following the breath throughout the body? What is the difference between these two methods?
One's thinking and one's breathing. I mean, you're thinking of challenge and you're thinking about breathing. Is it good?
Close. You're on the right track.
When I was doing it, and they were saying, it sure slowed me down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the difference.
The difference is you're doing more. You're doing more. Because when we're just counting, it's just counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, right? It's a repeat process over and over and over again. It's a short repeat process. Versus when we're doing the following the breath throughout the body, you're doing multiple things. So you have less room for the mind to get distracted by external factors. You have less room for distractions that take over. Because you're only doing one thing when you're counting, right? And it's just sitting there. There's no change, there's no difference, there's no exchange. It's just sitting there counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. And then you may have distractions coming in. It has a high potential of it kicking out that concentration. However, when we're doing the following the breath, the concentration, the object of meditation is resetting, right? So you're getting a new view. You're getting a fresh page. And so every time you shift your attention to different parts, it's resetting. What happens when we reset? As we just noticed, it starts working again, right? So that's a very effective method, I think, in my opinion and experience. So those are the two methods for breath work, right? Breathing meditation. The second method that we covered and we did was chanting meditation. And at least for that class, when we did chanting meditation, we chanted the name Amitabha. And so what we did, if you were not here, is we started with walking meditation first by chanting Amitabha. We went around a few times and we sat, chanted Amitabha, and then we speed up the chant. Amitabha, 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 right? We speed up about 5-10 minutes, and we slow it back down, and we stop, and then we just enjoy the nice buzz and hum in our body and meditate on that feeling. But that's our method of chanting. That's not necessarily the method of chanting meditation, right? That's just the method that I use. The chanting meditation is literally anything. Just think of a mantra. So if you have a favorite mantra, for instance, you can use that mantra as you're chanting meditation. Whether you verbally speak it out loud during the meditation or you just mentally recite the mantra, you can do that. And it doesn't have to be anything spiritual or religious. It can literally be any word. Anything, any word can be a mantra. Car, flower, airplane, sky, moon, Leon, right? Anything can be a mantra. The point of the mantra, because the word of the mantra doesn't necessarily have power in itself. The power of a mantra is the ability to help you focus and concentrate your mind on one object of meditation, which is the mantra. And so think of when we did the chanting meditation for that class, right? Especially when we sat down and started picking up speed, right? Because we picked up speed, and we do that for a specific reason. We pick up the speed, and so that you can chant faster. Because if you're chanting faster, what are we doing? What are we trying to do? when we're all chanting really fast together.
Make an effort to stay in and stay concentrated.
Exactly. Trying to stay concentrated. Trying to stay in unison. Because now instead of worrying about the feeling of hunger or discomfort taking over your meditation, now it's like, okay, I need to stay focused on my word and being in sync with everybody else, right? And so your mind, even though the mind has a mind of its own, right? It's its own entity sometimes. When we're doing that as a group, it too wants to stay concentrated and focused, right? It's one of the very few times it doesn't want to linger off, but instead it wants to stay and hang out with everybody else chanting. So that too is very, very effective. And once we slow down and stop that chanting, besides the physical sensations that we feel in the body, right? Because I think maybe most of us experience that buzz, right? That hum in the body, which relaxes the body and also relaxes the mind. And the mind tends to also become slightly exhausted at the end of it too, right? It too doesn't want to do anything else much besides just, okay, I'm tired, let me just chill with my friends, right? And so there's less room for the mind to get distracted as well during that also. So hopefully it becomes a successful meditation. And then our last method we covered was visualization, which I also mentioned last time was, for a lot of people, is the most difficult. Because if you close your eyes right now and try to visualize something you know well, like your partner or significant other or parent or sibling, try and bring up that image and try to really see all the features of their body. Look at them as if they were right in front of you, right? And then if you do that, you may notice that the visualization comes and goes, right? As you try to pick out the features or see the features or trying to see like their details of their face or their body, the image isn't steady, isn't a smooth transition of your view of them, right? It kind of comes and goes, kind of flickers, right? And because it's flickering, that's, even though you're holding on to that visualization, the flickering is not a true hold, right? Imagine if you're screwing a light bulb. If you don't screw it in all the way, it's going to start flickering, right? Likewise, if our visualization isn't tight enough, it's going to flicker. And that flickering is technically breakage. It's breakage in the visualization, meaning that you're not holding it on to that visualization strong enough. And that's fine. Visualization is pretty difficult. But it too, especially if you accompany it with either breath meditation or chanting, right? And I said, I think in our visualization class, I mentioned that if you can combine counting with visualization. So if you're sitting in meditation, visualize the numbers as you count in and out, as you're counting your breaths, right? So for in and out, you're counting one, visualize the one coming into your mental view. And then see it go away. Counting two, see number two in your visual field and let it go. Three, right? This is, when I'm doing that, this is the way my graphics in my mind comes and goes. But you can use, whether you want to do a slideshow or just magically change or pop, whatever it is. But for me, this is how it happens. But you can visualize the numbers too. So now you're combining two methods. You can even use chanting. So when we're chanting, at least when we chant Amitabha, it's also effective to visualize Amitabha himself, right, in your mental view. In some traditions of Buddhism, visualization, meditation is specifically used to visualize the Buddhas or the Bodhisattvas, right? And we do that in order to, the same way like when we chant or invoke their names, right? We're not really praying to them necessarily. We are really just invoking the characteristics of that Buddha Bodhisattva so that we can try to develop those characteristics within ourselves. So same way that when we are doing visualization meditation on the Buddha Bodhisattva, we are trying to see ourselves as that Buddha Bodhisattva. And to help what's the word I'm looking for? It's to help you want to become a Buddha or Bodhisattva. But you don't have to use a Buddha or Bodhisattva. You can use literally anything. Car, airplane, sun, cloud, whatever it is. But what you can also, what was the method I taught? I think was it the candle? Is that what I talked about? I think I may have talked about, or the room, your room, right? Think of, okay. There's definitely levels of visualization, meditation, right? But at the very minimum level, it is the visualization of whatever, whether it's someone you love, Buddha, Bodhisattva, numbers if you're doing counting, right? That's just a mental visualization. The next step after that is viewing an object, right, in real life, and scanning that object, looking over its every details, its little nooks and crannies, all the scratches, all the dents, all the little crazy details. And I think I used the example of a candle flame last time. So if you light a candle in front of you, observe the candle itself. Observe the wax, right? Is it totally smooth? Are there some scratches? Or some dents? Is some piece chipped off of it, right? And look at the flame. Look how the flame moves, right? How it's shifting. Does it grow? Does it shrink? Does it shift because of air, the wind, right? You want to really just memorize how that candle looks like. And then after a few minutes, at least 5, then you can close your eyes and try to visualize that exact candle in your mind. And then you can work your way up. And I think the next example I used was your room, the house, right? Pick a room and scan the room. Literally stand in the middle of it and just pretend like you're a camera and you're just scanning the whole room. You're going around, right? You're like one of the Google cars cameras. You're just scanning the room. You're seeing all the details. You're seeing everything that's there, everything on your shelves, everything on your floor, everything on your desk, your bed. You're just, again, you're memorizing what everything looks like in your room and where it is. And again, you do that for about 5 minutes, and then you close your eyes and visualize your room. Try to visualize every little detail you saw. Every crack, every scratch, every dent, everything that's missing, everything that's out of place or in place, whatever it may be. And do that, right? And so this is also a method that people have a hard time really believing that it's a method of meditation, but think of what you're doing when you're visualizing. What is the main form, or what is the main objective of visualization? Actual question. Calming the mind and coming it. Good. One more left.
I would say one of the purposes of visualization is to effectively project whatever image that you're concentrating on, to maintain that concentration and to merge into that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they are meditating on a bodhisattva like Avalokiteshvara, it's experiencing the compassion, the love, the love for humanity. It's feeling it.
Yes. It's to maintain concentration. Yep. Try to hold on to that focus. Because just like with any other method that we're using, right, the main objective of any meditation method or object of meditation is to develop concentration, to hold on to that concentration. So whatever it may be, whether you're counting, you're visualizing, you're chanting, you're walking, you're doing any of the plethora of methods there are, the main objective behind all those methods is to hone your concentration, it's to develop that concentration. Because regardless of what method you're doing, it's all doing what? Focusing on one thing. That's what meditation is to focus on one thing, one pointed concentration. Ekagata, right? That's the fifth of the jhana factor. Meaning that you're able to go through all these jhana factors, right? You're able to apply your attention and sustain that attention, right? Applying attention means that you are just choosing what method you're using. So if you're using counting, so you sit down and you start counting. That's applying the concentration, right? Applying the method of the concentration. Then when you're able to maintain and hold on to that method, now you're able to sustain it. You're able to sustain the concentration from that method. You may have gotten distracted once or twice, right? Some random thoughts may have appeared, whether it's sounds that you hear, feelings, sensations of the body that you're feeling, or simply just any distraction, right? As long as we're able to catch that distraction, acknowledge it, label it in our mind, it'll just on its own go away, right? It will on its own kind of give up, like, okay, you caught me. I guess I'm gonna go walk away, right? That's effectively what happens in our mind when we label distractions, right? And labeling becomes very important, right? And when we label, we are labeling with one-word labels. So again, if you hear, now that Leon's walked away, it's gonna be a good example. When he walks back in, even though we know it's Leon, but pretend you don't know it's Leon. But when he walks back in, right, you hear the chime of the door, or you hear the door opening and closing. You may hear his footsteps. You may hear him clear his throat, or I don't know, whatever is happening when Leon walks back in. If you're sitting in meditation and you don't know it's Leon, but you hear all those sounds and voices, and then we will, for the most part, habitually, naturally start making up stories about who it is, right? Who just walked in? Why are they so late? Why are they disturbing my meditation? Why are they clearing their throat in the middle of a very echoey building, right? And so we start to ask all these questions and starting to take us off the path of concentration, right? And so we're making up all these stories in our mind, who it is, what they're wearing, what they're doing, why are they walking, why are they coughing, why are they existing, I don't know, right? But all these are potential routes of distraction. So labeling becomes very effective, it becomes important because the moment we hear the door open, or whatever first sound that we hear, that should be the label, the one word that comes up in your mind. Not who it is, not, there they are, not the chime, not the door opening or closing, none of that. None of that should be what comes up in the mind. The only thing that needs to come up in the mind is the one word label you've applied to the sound of the door opening. So whether it's sound or door or chime or noise, whatever it is, whatever comes up first, use that as your label. And then just let it go. Because ask yourself, if we didn't know it was Leon walking through that door, and we're in the middle of our meditation, and you're asking yourself who it is, why they're late, all these other stupid questions, what is the point? what is the point of asking yourself all those questions? Does it make a difference who it is? Does it make a difference why they're late? Does it make a difference why they opened the door? Does any of that make any difference, whether you know or do not know? No. But our mind's stupid. Our mind is nosy. Our mind wants to know all the chisme. And it wants to know all these little details of who it is, why they're here, what are they doing, right? It loves gossip. And that's really what we're doing. We're just gossiping to ourselves of who it is, why they're late, why they're here. Don't do that, right? Because if you allow yourself to do that, then you're allowing your mind to be the master of you, which unfortunately is the case for all of us right now. Our mind controls us. You don't control the mind. Because if you were able to control your mind truly, then at will you'd be able to stop all your thinking. You'd be able to sit in meditation for days, if not weeks, if not months, if not years, without ever being disturbed. You'd be able to successfully complete or accomplish every single task you do without any breaks or distractions or exhaustion or whatever it may be. You would literally be able to have 100% control of your mind. We don't. So until then, we have to train it. And the methods are the training tools. You just have to whip it into shape. Okay. The last thing I want to cover really quick is the hindrances and the antidote to those hindrances, which are the jhana factors. So anything that arises during meditation, whether it's a distraction, a feeling, a thought, an emotion, anything that comes up in the midst of meditation will fall under one of the 5 hindrances. So the 5 hindrances are it's ill will, it's sloth and torpor, it's restlessness, what am I missing? Desire and doubt, right? And so these are pretty broad statements or pretty broad categories, but anything that arises, anything that happens will fall under one of those categories. And so it's also kind of important to be able to know what hindrances arise most during your meditation, which is why labeling becomes very effective. Because when you start labeling, you can start putting those labels into buckets, right? And for my own practice, when I label something, I will then place it in one of the 5 buckets of the hindrances. So whatever hindrance that label falls under, I put that label into that bucket of whatever hindrance, whether it's doubt or sloth or torpor, whatever it may be. That way, at the end of the session, you can kind of count your labels in each bucket and see which bucket has the most. Because when you do that, then you know what is most problematic in your meditation practice. So if your bucket of sloth and torpor, which is basically tiredness or laziness, is the highest, then you know you have a problem there. And that's the hindrance we need to worry about the most or work on the most, right? You don't maybe not necessarily have to do that after every single session, because sometimes, depending on your practice, you may not have a lot of distractions, or at least not enough significant ones to be placed in a bucket, right? And so it's usually like after a few sessions where you can kind of really just sit and analyze how the meditation was, what came up, what distractions arose, what buckets you place everything in. Then you can, from there, you can generalize what we need to work on the most. But the hindrances will all be suppressed, right, when the jhana factors are arising. The hindrances will not be fully eradicated into very, very later on in our meditation practices, but at least when we've gotten to at least sustained attention, at that point, the majority of the hindrances are at least suppressed, meaning that they won't really arise and take complete control over your meditation. right? But they're still there. They still may creep up, right? But they won't be as worrisome, right? They won't be enough to break your concentration. But even though we don't really meditate for too long during the classes, so we probably, some of us, probably won't get past the factor of joy, because really we only sit for like 20, 30 minutes. It's not really enough time for all the factors to arise. But hopefully when we're on a retreat in a couple of weeks, when we are sitting for longer sessions, that would be an opportune time for most, if not all, the factors to arise. But anyway, as I mentioned, the factor of applied attention is really just applying the method that you're using, right? Whether it's counting, it's visualization, chanting, whatever it is, right? It's the initial intention of what you're doing for the session. And then for sustained attention, it is simply just being able to hold on to that object of meditation and being able to push away any of those wispy distractions that arise, right? You'll still have distractions that may come about, try to distract you, but as long as you're able to catch them early on and label them, or acknowledge them, then label them, then they'll go away, right? It hasn't taken over your object of meditation, so you're able to sustain that concentration. And after a while of that, then we enter the factor of joy. Now, joy here is a physical sensation, meaning that when you are able to maintain that sustained attention for a minimum, give or take 15 minutes, then the body and the mind are calm enough where the sensation of joy will arise. And the sensation of joy can literally arise anywhere in the body. And it's going to be a feeling of it just feels good. Right? Like I don't really know how to explain it too much, but for me, it always starts in my hands, right? So I feel like my hands will start to feel lighter. My hands will start to feel as if they've merged into one, right? It's a nice, warming, calming sensation in my hands. And then it kind of then spreads throughout the body. For others, it may start in the head, the crown of the head, right? Sometimes at the chest area, at the heart, if you're doing meditation, or anywhere else, right? But once we feel that sensation arising, in the same way I said last time when now I've forgotten that word. Nimitta. When a nimitta arises, which is what? Remember what the nimitta is? Yes. Not necessarily just the flashing lights, but anything that arises in the mind, right? So I've kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but once that, okay, I'm going to add joy and bliss together because that makes sense. So joy is a physical sensation. Bliss is a mental one. So after the body feels that joy, that good feeling of sensation in the body, that joyous feeling will start to expand, right? It will start to permeate the whole body. And then after a while, then the mind starts to feel the same way. And once the mind starts to feel the same way, the mind then starts to, again, bring up visualizations on its own. So whether it's lights, flashing lights, whether it's a ball of light, whether it's just a color, whatever it may be, right? This is a nimitta. This is a good sign. But just like the joyful feeling in the body, you don't want to really give it too much attention. Because what happens, think of an animal, stray animal, right? If you see a cute little dog and a cat, like I will always go up to dogs, always. But if I see a cute little stray dog and I'm going up to it, all quickly and fast and excited, what is it going to do? It's going to run away. Likewise, our nimitta will do the exact same thing. So you see that little ball of light in your mind, you're like, ooh, it's happening. And then you run after it, it's just going to go away. Like, no, I don't want you anymore. So what we need to do when the nimitta arises in the body or the mind is to simply acknowledge it, let it be. Because if you give it attention, it'll either disappear or not grow. And so by continuing on your normal meditation and letting the nimitta just sit there, it will grow on its own. Especially in bliss, when the nimitta starts, it'll always, again, start with like little flashing dots, right? Think of like little stars in the sky, kind of just blinking here and there. But they will naturally grow and get larger and larger and bigger until they take over your entire visual field in the mind. So, and that's what we want it to do. But joy and bliss are the same thing, right? That feel, that sensation of it's expanding and taking over the entire body or the mind is what happens. And then if that nimitta does grow and it holds, you're able to maintain it and not scare it off, then you've entered one-pointed concentration, ikagata. And from there, if you're able to maintain your concentration for an additional 15 minutes, then we've entered the realm of axis concentration. Axis concentration is the combination of all these 5 factors, meaning that you're able to hold on to the object meditation for the entire duration of your session. So at the end of this, we only reach axis concentration at the minimum 30-minute mark, which is not enough for our classes. But it will be enough for our retreat coming up. So that's my challenge for all of you. Yes, sir.
How do you deal with attachment? Because, I mean, the few times I've experienced joy and this, no more than 3 times in my whole life, I usually use a timer. When I experience joy and bliss, I'm like, oh my God, that's really cool, but I know the timer is gonna go up now, so how much time do I have? And I start feeling attachment, and it kind of defeats the purpose, because now it's about the attachment and not the bliss. See what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
You don't set a timer. Okay. Sort of.
I mean, I have kids, I need that timer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, now bring up kids. Just think of children. So if one of your kids says they want something, you say no. What happens in their mind? They want it more, right? And so our own mind's the same way. And so the more you want to hold on to that joyful feeling, the more it's going to not want you. And so the simple ability to remove that attachment is just to let go. Don't have the desire for it. Because if you have the desire for it, it's not going to happen. Guarantee you. If you go into your meditation and you think to yourself, okay, today I'm going to enter and feel joy and bliss. If that's your objective, it's not going to happen. Because now your mind is simply scanning your entire session for that one moment. It's not the correct way to meditate. Right? And so we have to be able to acknowledge that not every session is going to be successful. Not every session you're going to have enough time to feel all the factors. Not every single good session this will happen, right? Because you can go through a really good session and not experience any of these factors. These factors are literally side effects. They're not cemented ideas. These are side effects. These are side effects to a good meditation session. And the nimitta that we see, or the feelings and bliss that arises, these are just bonus points for us. And so if you're going in wanting this, it's not going to happen. I want to be able to take over the world. Is that going to happen? No. Actually, I don't. I don't really care about the world. But there are things we have to know that we have to accept that may or may not be in our means to achieve. And this doesn't mean that you can achieve this. You literally can achieve this. And there's a lot of times when you're doing mundane tasks Because think of meditation as not simply just sitting and concentrating on a meditation object. What is meditation? Meditation is simply being able to concentrate on one thing at a time. So when you're driving, when you're cooking, when you're doing laundry, when you're cleaning, all these are types of meditations too. And there are a lot of times unknowingly to us that we feel some or all of these factors in these mundane tasks of cleaning or cooking. We just don't attach them to meditation because we're not meditating. But you truly are. I mean, it's assuming that you're cooking, you're only cooking and not talking or dancing or listening to a TV or whatever, right? If you're only doing one thing, then that is technically meditation. And so when you're sitting and you worry about the timer, don't worry about the timer. That's a distraction. What do we do with distractions? Acknowledge, label, and let it go. That's the only way you can disattach your attachments. Make sense? Yes, sir.
I keep thinking of the word grasping. Because our mind wants to, something comes up that's a bright, shiny object, our mind wants to grasp it.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of just feeling it and just saying, oh, this is a sign that you're okay. Because once you're just like, it creates the subject object when you want to grasp something. It's like, I'm here, and this is going on.
Right.
Instead of like, I'm not here.
Exactly. And that's what needs to happen when those nimittas arise, right? Again, when they arise, you see it, you're like, okay, that's cool, it's there. Don't worry about it. Exactly, it's a bright little shiny object, right? You don't want to be like, ooh, squirrel, and run after it, right? Simply let it be, and then it'll grow. Think of planting flowers or plants or trees. You can't just dig a hole, put the seeds in there, cover it up, water it. What are you going to do? Are you sitting there and waiting for it to grow? No. You just maintain it, take care of it, and move on. It comes back, right? You have to have that kind of same mindset, attachment-wise, to planting a tree. Instead of sitting there and waiting for it and just watching it grow and grow and grow, right? Wasting time. What are we doing? No. Just lay the foundation of what needs to be, and then just continue on. And then you can, from a passive view, we can see it grow over time, right? We're not going out there every day just staring at it. You're not going to come out the next day and just stare at it. No. You continue on your life, and you may glance at it every once in a while to see how it's doing, right? And over time, you'll see it sprout and grow, and then there's leaves, there's flowers, there's fruits, whatever it may be. But we're not there staring at it. So our meditation has to be the same thing.
We don't have to control its arising.
Correct.
And like we set the causes, well, we set the conditions, and then our cause is our concentration. And because the causes and conditions, the mind states arising.
Right. So nimitta, the same thing. You don't stare at it when it arises. You just let it be. You passively glance at it every once in a while. And let it just grow on its own. Yeah, don't attach. Acknowledge, label, and let go. Don't worry about the time. Don't worry about the feeling. Even the feelings, right? Even the mental conversation you have with yourself saying, oh, it's happening. Something's happening. Don't do that either. Because it's the same thing as when the nimitta arises in the mind and you pay attention to it and you look at it, it's going to run away. Same thing's going to happen. You're like, ooh, something's happening. The moment you acknowledge it and it sees you, you scared it off. Just acknowledge it's there, label it, and just let it be. And that's how we're able to control any attachments in our life, right? The attachment that we have to things and objects and people is simply because we want to hold on to them and maintain it for as long as possible, because we're scared of it going away. We're scared of losing it. We're scared of it breaking or expiring or whatever it may be, right? And so because we hold on to these attachments so hard and not wanting them to go away or break or expire or die or whatever it may be, we don't have the ability to enjoy them because we're so busy trying to fend off all the things that are trying to take it away from us. We have no time to actually enjoy it. And so when the nimitta arises, when the joy arises and the bliss arises, we know these are temporary. And because we know it's temporary, we want to hold on to them for as long as possible. That's not going to do you any good. Yes, ma'am.
May I share an experience in regards to this question?
Of course.
So, for the first 4 years of my meditation practice, at the very beginning, the first couple of months, I started to experience these kind of visualizations, seeing images and things like that. And I truly thought that that was the goal of meditation, was to see those things, to have those experiences. And I got so attached and had such an immense desire to continue experiencing those things that I got stuck in that for 4 years. That's not teacher was saying, these are the sensations, the things that naturally arise as of, following these steps. But I allowed myself to get stuck there, and because of that, it was like, I wasn't even able to appropriately meditate, because the whole point of meditation for me is to shut off my senses and attain information that's not even available to the intellect, and to meditate on the aggregates that are arising throughout the day. But I was stuck on sensations for 4 years. So I would just suggest, for myself, if anything rises, I recognize it, right back to the object of meditation, right back. It's just learning to be equanimous with whatever arises, whether it's a light, whether it's something like on the visual screen, or something. It's just like, I see it, come right back. I see it, come right back. Just come back. But not, also, another thing is not pushing it away, not having an aversion to it. It's just recognizing it peacefully coming back.
Making a little puppy up and putting it back.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking at it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Any other questions, concerns, emotional outbursts?
I have one thing that I wanted to share with y'all is a realization that I had when I first started to attempt to visualize, and I recognized that there was a direct correlation between visualization that I was trying to do in my meditation and my waking life too. So for myself, when I go into meditation, I kind of imagine myself going into an empty movie theater, and I'm sitting there, and I'm the only one that's in the movie theater, and I see the screen, it's white, and the purpose is to project a specific image, let's say it's the Buddha, onto that screen. At the very beginning, like the teacher was saying, it's kind of like flickering, like a light bulb that's not even screen. Normally it flickers and it's on and off and it's on and off, and I was like, I wonder what's up with that? Like, why is that keep occurring? I'm really trying to visualize this. I know what the Buddha looks like. And then I realized that it was directly correlated to my waking life. And what I mean by that is, if I was at work and like a coworker was talking to me and they're speaking to me, am I able to focus all of my attention on what that person is saying? Or am I trying to plan my computer, or do I have my phone and am I scrolling, or am I thinking about lunch or something like that, And so this year, my main focus has been to be having like one point of concentration in everything that I do. So if I'm driving, I'm focusing on driving. I'm not listening to radio. I'm not listening to a podcast. If I'm cooking, I'm focused solely on cooking in this now moment. And once I started to just focus on one thing at a time, that is when the image of the Buddha on the movie screen stays longer and longer and longer.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Follow-up question that was just prompted. I'm sure you covered it in a different session.
from a practical perspective, when should we meditate? Mornings, middays, nights, twice a day, 3 times a day, the whole day?
The whole day would be great, honestly. That is 100% up to you, right? I think I've mentioned this before. It's like all of meditation, all the methods that you use, you have to experiment with them, right? Because again, I've chosen only 3 because for me, I believe these are the most effective for people who are beginning or early on in their meditation practice to be able to accomplish. There are hundreds of methods. And there are hundreds of methods because not one is going to work. It's not a one-fits-all, right? And so it's really important to be able to practice and experiment with different ways of meditating so that you can find the one that works for you best. And then once you do that, then you can continue practicing that method until it stops working. But as far as when to meditate, it's going to be up to you. When you have, again, meditation isn't a chance to chill out and to relax, right? Meditation is not a hobby. There is a goal, there's a specific reason of why we meditate, right? And we have to be able to know what that goal is for us, right? So if meditation is a means for you to just relax and to take care of your anxieties or your stress or whatever, then that's fine, right? I'm already off point. The point is you just need to be energized enough to be able to sit and do true meditation. And a true meditation session is at minimum a 30-minute session. Because I mean, you can start if this is very new to you, or you've never meditated, or you're fairly new, like within a year or so. Start with 10, 15 minutes and work your way up every 5-minute increments every few weeks or so, or every month, right? Work your way up. So if you're new, don't start with 30 minutes. That's a stupid response. So start with the 10, 15, 20 minutes and work your way up. Because once you start working your way up, let me backtrack a bit. Don't increase your increments if the meditation isn't working. So let's say if you start with 10 minutes for 2-3 weeks, right? After 2-3 week mark, you say, okay, my method is strong. I'm able to hold my concentration longer now or for the entire session. And you can say honestly to yourself that this is working and I'm succeeding, then add minutes, add 5-minute increments, right? So as you progress and start to get better in meditation, then you will naturally want to sit for longer and longer periods. Because the longer the periods you sit, the more likely you're able to achieve these factors. And then you're able to achieve even deeper states of meditation, deeper states of consciousness, the longer sessions you get. The deepest mental state or state of concentration that we're able to achieve in meditation is called jhana. And jhana, even though these are jhana factors, right? These are the factors that allow jhana to happen. But jhana is when we achieve these factors, right, we enter the access concentration. And just like the name suggests, it's giving us access to the jhana building, right? And so you're able to open the door of jhana by achieving access concentration. And in jhana, which is there's technically 8 levels of jhana, and the higher the level, the more deeper you get into your mind, into your consciousness. But the higher the level, the longer you have to sit. So for the first level of jhana, and this is not a joke, this is what all the teachers, this is what not our Abbott teacher, but my first meditation teacher said, 3 hours is the very minimum to achieve the first level of jhana. And it is true. But most of us don't have 3 hours, right? most of us probably, aside from myself, don't have more than 30 or 60 minutes to sit, right? But anyway, the point is find the time of day of what works for you best. But find a time where you know you're not too exhausted, you're not too stressed out, because if you have all those factors, that's going to influence your session. My least favorite time of day to do meditation is in the evening. For me, it's the hardest. The easiest is bright and early, right? We wake up at 4 a.m. every morning to do our practices and meditations, and it's really the best time because your mind is fresh, the day is fresh, nothing has happened yet to worry you. There's nothing you have to think about or look back on. It's a spanking new sheet of paper, right? There's nothing on it. Imagine your day is just scripted, right? And so if you ever open a script, the very first page is what? The title. There's not much on there. It's just the title. And that title is just us waking up for that day. So there's nothing on that page that we need to read, need to go through, need to memorize. It's just beautifully fresh. And then as the day goes by, and you do start to do more activities, start going to work or school or taking care of your family, right? There's all these other factors that happen. And then when you sit for meditation midday or at the end of the day, one, you're mentally exhausted probably. Two, you're also probably physically exhausted, depending on what you've done all day. And so your body and mind don't really want to do any more work. It just wants to be lazy, which is one of the hindrances, sloth and torpor. Right? And so, but that's just me. Your day may be different. You may have the opposite schedule. You may have a night schedule, for all I know. Right? And so it just depends when you feel most comfortable and most able to really truly sit and focus long enough for the sit. But experiment, for sure. Other questions? Good, because we are so late. So we only have time for 15 minutes of sitting, which is child's play for us, okay? We're all well endowed in meditating. So anyway, do a quick stretch if you need to, and we'll sit. Please rise. We will do our quick walking meditation next. Forward. please feel free to sit down. Welcome back. Hopefully some of us took a short journey out of this world. Okay. Before we close, was there any last minute questions, concerns, experiences? Yes.
I'm having trouble labeling.
You have trouble labeling? Okay. What are you having trouble labeling with?
I don't know. Sometimes future or past. I have no idea if it's a desire or an aversion.
Well, if it's something you want, I would say desire. If it's something you're trying to push away, that would be aversion. So if a thought came up about, which is fine, totally fine. It doesn't have to be, you can split your labels, right?
No tips. Just figure it out.
Well, so it's very, labeling is very subjective, okay? Because what you label, you may put a label in one specific category, whereas I would put it somewhere else, right? So it's not,
If I mislabel
it doesn't matter either. The point is just yeah, it's just, just think of the KISS method. Everyone remember the KISS method in English class in high school or college? Keep it simple, stupid. I think now they call it something else. Keep it simple, something else. I don't think they use the word stupid anymore. But it's really just that, right? It's not overthinking. You can just, you don't have to worry about putting it in a hindrance bucket during the meditation. It's something that you can do afterward, after you reflect on it, right? Because after you emerge from meditation, you kind of also want to reflect on how it went, right? What went well, what didn't go well, what came up a lot. You know, how is your mood? How is your posture? How is the atmosphere? How is the environment, right? You want to do those like very subtle reflections afterward. And it's at that point where you can like be a little bit more specific. But during meditation, you don't want to be that specific because otherwise you start thinking, right? You simply just want to label. If it's something that's, it's like someone's talking about, if it's something that's stupid and kind of obvious, where you can, in the meditation, put it in a very specific bucket because you know it's specifically, I'm averse to this pain I'm having, right? But if it's something a little bit more general and you don't really know where it goes, just hold on to it until afterward. But again, you can also split it because things can be more than one, right? You may want lunch, but you don't want to be thinking about lunch. So that's a desire and an aversion. Okay? Yes, Leon.
I was just thinking that it's kind of, when a thought arises and you realize you're having a thought, it's kind of like the labeling for me is a point to stop you from going down the rabbit hole.
Right.
So a thought arises in your mind, let's take that thought and run.
Right.
So by labeling, you're giving yourself a chance to dismiss it. Not that it's easy to do, but it seems to be kind of what I'm saying. Once we can step outside of the thought, we see the thought, then we know it was a thought.
Right.
If we're involved in it, we don't know it's a thought, we're just off somewhere, right?
Right.
So it's the awareness of having a thought, and then the label allows you to just cut it and not go down the rabbit hole.
Exactly.
I think when you're younger, the emotion of things, because I'm like her, I would say that when you're younger, our I began my life completely against labeling because I felt probably labeled and it had a thumb on me. And so I had an aversion to labeling. And so everything, and when I got older and I had to figure out all these emotions and reactions and all this kind of thing, I had to put those in the buckets.
Right.
And I couldn't think my way. It was too confusing to think it through. So my emotions were put into buckets. And this is actually helping me too because I'm thinking, there's more diversification and singling out of those. Now I can see the usefulness of, for the first time ever, I see the usefulness of working. I've never seen that before when I was able to do whatever it is. So that's good beginning, but that's the first time I've ever thought working was
I mean, when we're labeling, we're also in a self therapy session, right? Because if you go to a therapist and they sit you down and are like, okay, well, what are you feeling? Why are you feeling this, right? It's forcing you to recognize what's really behind the emotion that's arising.
But you can see that through your circumstances. You can see where the emotion arises. You can still understand it and let your way through it.
Right.
Because you have to understand the circumstance and become the other side of the story.
Right.
By seeing that picture. So you can still work without the label. Or at least I've been able to do that. But I think articulating to yourself with the labels is even more, it's more helpful to get in to be in the world.
Right.
Because the way I did it definitely lacks in communication. And therefore there's no reinforcement and therefore there's no support.
Right.
And so that's difficult as challenge. And so I think the labeling would help bring those things together.
Right, bring it to light.
But you can work that out without labeling. But it's very personal. It's very
right.
subjective.
Right.
It's not a certain thing. It's not. I mean, it's definitely. But I think it's good.
Yeah.
But hard.
Yeah, that may not work for like.
It's not a thoughtful way. Survivalistic.
Yeah, I think that may be more conducive for those that have been meditating for a while versus just starting. I think for those starting meditation new to meditation or still in like the first bump of their path, labeling, like mentally labeling things is more conducive. Because after a while you can stop the labeling, right? Because hopefully, I hope, that eventually we will all have little to no distractions arising. And when there's little to no distractions arising, then there's no need to label. You can just acknowledge, right? And you can kind of figure out what the label is according, like you said, according to your circumstances, according to the environment of what's happening. But there's also situations where we don't want to really admit it, right? We know what the circumstance is, we know what the situation is, but we don't really want to admit what's actually happening because it becomes aversion, right? Whether if it's a difficult situation, for instance, or something that we're trying to hide from or achieve. I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I'll stop there.
It gives us insights into feelings and thoughts that we're having, right? Into what's behind them.
When labeling?
Yes.
Yeah.
even when I look at these things and all of these things to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, but in actuality, that is actually the process of what happens. It's like, it's not really, because when we take labels, we can put them in all different directions.
Right.
You know, you can put number 4, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And to me, that's like, yeah! But when feeling your way through, in my meditation, it's exactly the process that is natural. That's a natural process. That first you know, you're gaining your attention, so you do something to do that, and then all of a sudden the breathing becomes your focus, and then all of a sudden the visualization is coming into view, and then, you know, it's all just exactly a process that happens naturally.
It is.
And then you put it down into labels
Right.
of that. So, and then when we start messing with it.
Everything you bring on that board is a label, right?
Say it again?
Everything you bring on that board is a label.
Yes. Yes. Everything's a label. Everything that has a name is technically flower, statue, bowl, or bell.
Pointing to a label is not what the thing is.
Correct. Correct.
It's a process, and it
It's
actually
beyond,
brings you
it's
to that,
before words.
that opening to that oneness that we play around with. I'm on that. No.
In the deepest of your meditations, all the labels should drop away. And I'm asking,
Mm-hmm.
feeling that it's gone, beyond the labels, beyond.
Mm-hmm. That's what will naturally happen. Yeah, the labeling does one of two things. One, it helps you recognize what your hindrances are. But two, it it stops the mind from overthinking. It stops the mind from, well, it should. It should stop the mind from overthinking or to going down the rabbit hole, right? Like I mentioned earlier with the door opening. You know it's Leon. If we didn't know it was Leon, then we go through this whole storytelling of what we think, and it may or may not be true, right? And so by labeling, we are simply stating what actually is. Sound, door, chime, dog, barking, AC, noise, whatever it is. These are this is reality. Versus someone walks in the door, you don't know who it is, you ask yourself who it is, why are they late, all this other stuff. All this nonsense is not reality. You're making it up, right, to make sense of what you've heard or what you're sensing. And so by labeling, you're simply stating that this is true reality. This is not my imagination. I'm not going down the rabbit hole. I'm not making things up. I'm not making a movie in my mind. I heard a sound. It is a sound. Versus, I heard a sound. I don't know who the sound is. I don't know where it came from. Blah, 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 blah. Your mind just goes down and you're wasting time. To me, that's why labeling is very effective. It doesn't allow all that clutter to happen. Not all the time. I slip every once in a while. That's the right.
So we can catch it before we become the thought. We can let it go when we're in it and we are let it go.
It is what it is. Okay. Love these insights. Any last minute ones? We're way over time. Okay.
This is our last session, I believe, immense gratitude for our teacher, Venerable Thích.
Thank you.
For all the work that he is doing and all the guidance he's helped.
Much appreciated. I do this for all of you, not for me. Thank you. Okay, quick couple of announcements. Just a reminder, we have our retreat on the 14th. It'll be a Saturday. Feel free to please register on our website so we know how many people to feed. And then next Sunday, we have a very, very special day planned. So next Sunday at 9 a.m., I invite everyone, please join us for 2 concurrent events. We will first be celebrating our Venerable Abbot's continuation day. His birthday will be 87 this year. So we'll be celebrating his life. And then after that, we will be having a ceremony to appoint our nun as the new abbess to our temple. It is a very special occasion because she will be the first nun in San Antonio to become abbess of a temple. So that's going to be a beautiful and auspicious occasion. And then after that, after the 2 celebrations, then we'll have a community lunch. We'll have some delicious pho. My favorite part of any of these events is the food. So you're welcome to that. So that'll be next Sunday, 9 a.m.
We're still going to have our 12:30 service or not?
We will have the 12:30 service, yes. It will be, like because we're not counting on all the English Sangha to attend the 9 a.m. service. So for the 12:30 service, we will do a kind of an informal birthday celebration for a teacher. So we'll do the group blessing for him, and then request a Dharma talk, and then we'll chant a different sutra for him. But there will be 12:30 service, yes. But I encourage everyone to please attend the 9 a.m. because it's a very auspicious occasion. Other than that, I will hopefully see some of you tomorrow for my Dharma talk, and or next Sunday.
For the teacher's birthday, a gift to the temple will be probably the most important thing.
Yes.
The most appropriate, I'm trying to say.
Yes, it is. Yes, he appreciates gifts to the temple, not to himself. Otherwise, we don't survive. Kidding, but you know what I mean. Okay, otherwise, I'll see everyone tomorrow, or next Sunday, or on our retreat. Thank you.